In today's video, we are answering all your questions about our brand new tiny house. Welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, our names are Steph and Katie, and we're a married couple from Canada. We have a remote waterfront property on one of the Gulf Islands here in BC, and we just had our brand new custom-built tiny house and office pod delivered. This has been a huge project and a big dream come true for us, and we're so excited to finally settle into our home. Our tiny house is a 37.5-foot home on wheels, and we have an additional 100 square foot backyard office. Both were built by Summit Tiny Homes, and our house is a fully custom version of their modern bohemian model. If you want to see a full tour of both our house and office, we already have one up on our channel, as well as a video documenting the entire delivery process. We have been getting so many questions about our tiny home, and we wanted to sit down and answer them all for you. We will get through as many as we can, but if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments of this video or any of our other videos, and we'll be sure to do another Q&A soon. Okay, so diving right in, to start, we got a ton of questions just about the regulations and the legalities of tiny houses. So asking how we got approval for a tiny house on a vacant lot here in BC. A lot of people thinking that, you're not allowed to have a tiny house as a full-time residence, asking if we're going to live here full-time, and just how we got approval and everything like that. So we'll start there.
Yeah, okay. So since the tiny house is actually designated as an RV, we didn't actually need approval for a build because it's not technically built on the property. It is mobile, it is on wheels, it is basically the same as an RV in the eyes of the regulations.
Yeah.
That being said, because RVs in BC anyway are not suitable to live in full time, at least not yet anyway. I know there are a lot of people that are trying to change that because there is a housing crisis in BC, and that would really help things. But as it stands right now, you are not technically allowed to live in an RV year round. So that kind of hits two of those points or two of those questions. One being we didn't need an actual approval to have the tiny house on the lot because our lot allows for parking of any sort of RV or boat or anything like that with no kind of other guidelines. And also we're not actually living in the tiny house full time. We do have our condo in the city. So this is just a part-time residence. So yeah, that's kind of how we are working around that.
Yeah, so for our unique situation, maintaining our primary residence in our condo in the city was important to kind of do all of this. And I know a lot of people are asking because you want to do something like this too. And so our best advice is to look in your area and look into all the regulations because they are so different depending where you live. So not just in all of Canada, but each province has different rules and each municipality has its own rules as well. So even just all of BC is different than the Gulf Islands. It's different than the mainland and Vancouver Island. So you really have to look for specifically where you are to find out what the rules are. So that's our best suggestion. As well, like Steph said, there are so many places, not just here in BC, but all over, where people are really advocating for tiny house living being legally allowed as a full-time residence. So if that's something you're looking to do, I would also recommend finding who those people are, joining your local group, and continuing that advocacy, because I know that in certain places it is allowed now to live in a tiny home full time. And so the regulations are changing and things are kind of catching up, and it's changing constantly all the time. So I would recommend just seeking that out wherever you are and looking into what the rules are currently and what they might be in the future if you're looking to do something like this as well. Okay, the next questions are about why we decided to be here on the island and were we restricted in any of our options due to this area. So in terms of our situation here and our property on the Gulf Islands, this has been a long time dream of ours if you've seen our other videos, and we were really looking for somewhere that we could have a getaway close to the city of Vancouver where we have our main living situation, something within a few hours that we could get away to, and the Gulf Islands is just sort of where we ended up finding the perfect property. property. And yes, like anywhere else, there are bylaw, restrictions and land use restrictions and everything like that that we did have to adhere to.
Yeah, actually, one of the unique things about BC and about Vancouver in particular is something called an empty homes tax. So, because again, housing crisis, they are trying to limit how many properties one person can have. And with the Gulf Islands, because of its remote nature and the fact that it's kind of like a vacation destination, if you will, like a vacation property type of place, unlike if we had, say, two properties one in Vancouver and one in Kelowna or one in Victoria, that would be subject to an empty homes tax if we wanted to use both of those for ourselves and not rent one of them out. Having a place on the Gulf Islands, it is considered a vacation property. So that's exempt from that empty homes tax if you have a second property in this area. So that was actually something that really worked to our advantage in that case.
Yeah. And then in terms of the restrictions of our land itself, so we bought this as vacant land 3 years ago. It is 1.5 acres, and basically it's zoned for one permanent dwelling. So it gives us the option of building one residence, one house here on the land. And when we were thinking about what we wanted to do here, we thought, that is something that maybe we'll do down the line, but we wanted to do something that we could use right away. And so that was kind of how we landed on a tiny house. You can go back and watch all of our videos of weighing all the different options and figuring out exactly what we wanted to do, whether we wanted to just park an RV or a camper van here or just, save up and build a house. But a tiny house was kind of the best of both worlds because it's not a permanent dwelling. So technically we still don't have a residence on this land. So if we wanted to build a house down the line, the tiny house could actually stay here and that would be allowed. And that would allow us to kind of have like a house and a little guest cottage, a way of doing that we wouldn't have otherwise been able to do.
Yeah, and we are allowed multiple outbuildings. So the office pod is considered an outbuilding. Our shed is considered an outbuilding. If we wanted to build a garage, that would also be fine because the property allows for that. So we liked the idea of having kind of multiple structures, for obviously an office space and then, garage storage kind of space, shed type of thing. So we are allowed to do all of that, which is great. And then, of course, with the tiny house, having the different auxiliary buildings just kind of adds to the property and makes it really unique instead of having just like one big house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that we've done this, and honestly, I don't even know if we ever will build one big house. Maybe, who knows what will happen 5 years down the line, 10 years. But I mean, we love it so far and we feel like we have such a good amount of space and we have so many options of other things we could build to really enjoy the property. So for now, we're very happy with this situation.
For sure.
So also a lot of questions about our property itself and whether we are off-grid, on-grid, whether we have electrical, water hookups, everything like that. I think we'll need to do an exterior tour for you guys showing the outside of the house and all the hookups and everything like that.
There's a lot to cover for sure. So we can give you kind of a quick version of it now, but definitely going through and talking about everything in much more detail, I think will be helpful. So the quick version is we are not on municipal water. We are not on municipal sewer. So that means we needed a septic system and we needed a well. Luckily, there was a drilled well already on the property. It hadn't kind of been used for a while. I think it was put in maybe 25 years ago originally. And then it was kind of pumped out and tested and stuff a few years ago. So we knew that there was water in there. We knew that it was working. We knew that it was done properly. It just needed a little bit of a refresh. And then obviously we needed to put in all of the well pump equipment and filtration system and everything to have that water be usable. So that's that. And then in terms of the electrical, there were power lines that were actually running through the property. So we just needed to have a hydro pole put in and then a transformer. And then our electrician could hook up all of the breakers and everything like that to run power to the pod and to the house.
Yeah. So there was a lot involved in all of that. The septic system was obviously the biggest hurdle because we had to kind of start from scratch putting that in. But yeah, we'll do a future video walking through all those things because that is what you're dealing with when you're on, vacant land, when you're on a more remote property. And it is remote out here, but
not completely off grid, right?
No, so we are set up with services, which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also got a lot of questions about the tiny house and the office pod being on gravel pads, whether or not we looked into doing concrete pads instead, and if we got any engineering advice.
Yeah, so we basically just went with the recommendation of the builder, which was to do gravel And also knowing that if we put down concrete, that would be a much more permanent decision on, where the structures are located and whether or not we wanted to like move the tiny house and put in a house.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the reasoning behind that.
We also did get an engineer's report when we bought the land. So we did have a good idea of kind of what's going on underneath and, in terms of safety and everything like that. So our builder also saw that, and the contractor who did all of our excavation and prep work and everything like that. So we're confident that things are, safe and everything's going to be fine in that regard.
Yeah.
Okay, we also got a lot of questions about the tiny house being on wheels. It was delivered that way if you've seen our delivery video, and just kind of what it looks like to have it stationary permanently in terms of insurance and everything like that. So those are great questions. Our tiny house was delivered on wheels, and then I feel like we haven't even shown you what it looks like now that it's permanently parked, but it is permanently parked now, and for our insurance purposes, we did need to have it skirted. So we had that professionally done. It's professionally skirted, and the wheels are still on. The house isn't resting on them. It's set on blocks now.
So that was actually one of the stipulations of the insurance as well, is that the house was placed on blocks. So yes, like you said, not resting on the wheels.
Yeah.
And then with the skirting, it is just considered permanently parked in that sense. So we did all that, and we sent photos to the insurance company. They were happy with that and kind of gave us the final approval once everything was in place.
Again, our best advice is that every situation is so unique, so it really depends on where you are, on your land that you're putting your tiny house on, and for insurance purposes as well, I think that they all have different stipulations, and it's really unique to every individual situation. So definitely checking that out beforehand and finding out exactly what you need to do. That's something I probably wish we did sooner, was looking into insurance and exactly what they would require. But yeah, that's our best advice for anyone looking to do this. We also got a ton of questions around the finances of this whole situation, which I think is more than fair. So asking about the timeline between saving up, finding our land, buying the land, planning everything out, and building. So let's get into that. If you've seen our other videos and kind of watched this whole process, basically we had a house that we sold in Ontario during the pandemic in 2021. And with that sale, we knew that we had the opportunity to invest in a second property here in BC. That had been the plan for a long time, and we had been looking kind of on Vancouver Island, the Sunshine Coast, and the Gulf Islands. For reasons that you said, I'm really glad that we ended up finding something here on the Gulf Islands, because it just made a lot of sense. And we ended up finding this property about 6 months later in the spring of 2022. We had questions about whether or not we mortgaged it or if we had the opportunity to do that. No, we had to buy it like full cash offer. It was a competitive market.
Yeah.
And luckily we were able to do that because of the sale of our house. From there, we hung on to it for a couple years trying to figure out what we wanted to do, trying to figure out the finances of it all and how we could afford to do something. And we looked into building a home and the cost of that and whether or not it made sense to do that right now. And ultimately, we decided on doing a tiny house because it was still a big investment, but much less than it would have been to build a big home. And also the timeline of it, we were able to do this so much faster. So we decided less than a year ago, last summer, I think we went and looked at tiny houses in August with our builder that we ended up going with. And we were like, we could do this and we could have something by next summer.
Yeah, we moved on it quickly.
Yeah, we started the process, I think, in September. We put our build spot deposit down and our house was delivered in June.
Yeah, and of course with any build project, like the payment structure is going to be spread out.
Yeah.
With something like this, because it was quick, the payment was obviously quicker as well. But that being said, we're also able to use it a lot quicker. So instead of having to have this long process of like paying a bunch of money and not having, the place to be able to enjoy.
Yeah.
We did get to enjoy it pretty quickly after starting to make those payments, which is great.
Yeah. And we did have questions about whether or not we mortgaged the tiny house as well. So I think you'll find this if you look into this for yourself, that there aren't a lot of options for mortgaging or financing a tiny house because it's not a house. It's not legally classified as a house, so you can't mortgage it in the same way.
The financing options would be similar to an RV.
Yeah, which so there are options.
There are financing options for that.
Yeah, so I wouldn't let that discourage you. I would definitely look into what options you can find. We finance through a personal line of credit, so that's also an option. There are definitely ways of getting creative and finding ways to do it. But a traditional mortgage, I would say, most likely wouldn't in any situation be applicable.
Right.
But that's just what we did for our situation. We also had tons of questions just on how much it cost, how much the tiny house cost, how much the office pod cost, how much
That
we
will
spent on
also be a
everything.
much longer video, and we will get into all of that. We will do
Yeah.
a proper breakdown of everything. So
Yeah. You can see like all the base pricing of the tiny house model that we went with, but we also did a lot of upgrades, and like there are so many factors, and we can break that all down for you because I think that's of interest. So let us know, and we could also do a breakdown of the cost of prepping our property, the septic system, the electrical, setting up our well, everything like that, because I will tell you that it's going to be so much more expensive than you think it is.
Yeah.
We budgeted
I think that's a
all
general
out.
rule of building anything is that it's going to be more than what you expect. And obviously
maybe not like
things change as
$5,000
well.
more, like $50,000 more.
Yeah,
Like I would
sometimes,
really suggest budgeting so much more than you think you need, because that was our biggest lesson. Like we mapped it out. We did like a high, a low, like an average of what we thought, got as many quotes as we could, like gathered all the information we could, and it was absolutely still way more than we thought.
Yeah.
So we also got a question about whether or not the tiny house came with a manual. This person said that other tiny house companies will sometimes put like a binder with all of the warranty and the manuals and maybe like some build photos and everything like that when you get your house. And no, we did not get that. And I kind of wish we did, because there were just so many things that we had to figure out in the beginning, so many questions that we had. And I think our delivery was like very chaotic. And if you've watched our delivery video, like we ran out of time to get the house actually set up. Our builder didn't have the
just do a
opportunity to do
walkthrough
that.
to like show stuff.
Yeah, so I think it's partially because of that we really just kind of felt like there's a big learning curve.
Yeah,
in the beginning.
and we definitely were given all of the warranty documents and everything like that, manuals and stuff like that. They were all in a drawer.
Yeah,
there were some things missing. I think one of the first things I wanted to look through, the manual was missing, and I thought, oh, that's convenient.
Yeah.
Just little things here and there. So obviously, like having everything kind of written out would have been helpful, or just have a bit of a go-to with like the important information, because sometimes the last thing you feel like doing is sifting through an entire instruction manual. But we are kind of learning as we go, and we're pretty intuitive when it comes to stuff like this. But I would say for a lot of people too, like it is something that would have been nice, would be nice to have.
Yeah, I would suggest that as well. For advice is just making sure that you, like, if you have the opportunity when your home is delivered, if it's being delivered by your builder, to do a little bit of a walkthrough and just check things out. And any questions that come to mind, just ask them when you have the opportunity. If you're able to do that, I would highly suggest it.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, we also got a lot of questions just about how the house is functioning, some specific ones about the washer dryer unit. A lot of people saying that they've seen in other tiny house videos that a combo washer dryer unit like really shakes the whole house when it's on. Like the spin cycle can be really
I
intense.
think that's going to be the case with any washer, because a spin cycle is often quite,
aggressive.
Yeah. And yeah, it definitely shakes the house.
Would you say it shakes the whole house?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
The spin cycle?
Oh, okay. I've been telling people it didn't shake the whole house.
You may have been in the... I'm trying to think of when it was on.
No, we've done it. We've run it a couple times.
Yeah.
Would you say it shakes the whole house?
It's pretty... Yeah, I mean, it's a solid shake.
Okay, maybe we need to do a video where we film just how aggressively it shakes. It's also not right on the floor, which I feel like is good. It's like propped up in a cabinet, which probably helps.
But it shakes. The dryer works a little differently, so I did find the dryer to be extra quiet, which was nice. So if all we're dealing with is the spin cycle, which I think is always going to be loud. I mean, the one in our condo is loud too.
Yeah.
You don't have the luxury of like having a laundry room in the basement where you're so far away from it. But obviously, like, we can time our laundry.
Pop it on when you're going for a walk or when we're coming into the office to work or whatever.
Yeah. So it's definitely not a problem. I think everything is pretty safe. Nothing's getting knocked around.
I'm not worried about it like shaking out of its little cabinet.
No, I think it's pretty secure. So
yeah, let us know if you'd be interested in a video about all of the appliances in the tiny house and things like that, how everything is sort of functioning.
Yeah.
Also, a lot of questions about moisture and humidity in the tiny house. It's definitely a big consideration when you're in such a small space. I would say that we haven't had any issues at all, but I would say a lot of it is because it's summertime. We have all the windows open right now, but I don't think that will be a problem.
Honestly, if anything, it's actually weird because our tiny house feels a little dry.
Yeah, you've been saying in the bedroom, like waking up
at night, it feels like I'm waking up kind of extra thirsty and stuff.
Yeah.
Which is just completely the opposite of what you would expect from a tiny house and what everybody talks about in a tiny house. Of course, winter might be different.
Yeah, we'll see.
But no, it's been great. And also we have an air exchanger unit inside the tiny house. There's 2 air vents on opposite sides of the house, and they basically bring in air, push out air. There's a control panel in the bathroom, so we can kind of push air out if we're cooking. It kind of helps to like disperse the cooking smells and stuff like that. And otherwise it's just one's coming in, one's going out, and they kind of work together to keep the moisture out and to keep the air quality up. And I think it's like quite a good thing to have in a tiny house.
It's a very high-tech fan system, and I would recommend having one. I would say this is the biggest thing about going with a reputable builder. You know, they've built lots of homes. They've already troubleshooted all the potential issues.
Yeah.
These are all things that you don't want to have to deal with. You don't want moisture problems. You don't want to have to be dealing with that. So I would recommend looking, into whichever builder you're going with, or if you're building your own tiny house, like making sure that you're considering all these things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. We also got a lot of questions about our bathroom. To get to the bedroom, you have to go through the bathroom. And some people were like, isn't that really inconvenient? And personally, like, I love our layout. I think it's perfect. When you're choosing a layout for your house, like, you have to prioritize certain areas, right? So for us, it was a priority to have a main floor bedroom at one end of the house, and it was a priority to have the stairs to the loft on the other end of the house. So that does mean that the kitchen and the bathroom are in the middle of the house, right? Like, you can only do so many things. Personally, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. It hasn't been a problem. I don't mind it.
I mean, we love the look of our bathroom. It's super cute. So it's not like this monstrosity that we're like, The other thing is we are pretty clean people. We like to keep our bathroom nice and clean. So that would be the other thing, is if that's not the case for you or someone you live with, maybe I can see that being more of a concern, but.
Sure. I also find that we're not like going in, like, the bedroom is probably the room we go into the least throughout the day, if that makes sense. Like, you sleep in there, but once you're kind of up and at 'em, like, maybe you're going in there to grab a sweater or something, but you're not like constantly walking in and out of there throughout the day, I would say. So to me, it makes sense. It makes sense.
And we have our kind of morning routine where, like, if one of us is in the bathroom or.
Sure, that would be the only consideration, I guess. It's like one person gets trapped in the bedroom if the other person's in the bath. But, like, I don't know, we figure it out. We figure it out. It's fine.
It's not that complicated.
Yeah. And then questions about the sliding doors. So we have like a barn door on one side of the bathroom going from the kitchen into the bathroom, and then we have a pocket door going from the bathroom to the bedroom. Yes. So a barn door and a pocket door. People were asking about, like, sound transfer and everything like that. We did upgrade both of those doors to solid core doors, just because we have hollow core doors in our condo, and we just feel like they're really flimsy.
They're super flimsy, yeah.
So
and we've been in condos before that have solid doors, and it's like
you've noticed
such a big difference.
Yeah, so that was an upgrade that we did. It was not expensive. So I think it was like a couple $100 extra or something. Yeah. So that would be something that I recommend if that's something that you're worried about. But in general, it hasn't been an issue.
Yeah, it's been fine.
Okay, tons of questions about our future projects and especially the outdoor space. So questions about putting a deck on the house, how much land we have here, and if we have space to do a garden, or what types of, landscaping ideas, things like that. So yeah,
like what we've got landscaping ideas don't we have? Because every time we go outside, we're like, we can do this, we can do that, we can do this.
Literally, like, we have a lot of space. Like, yes, we're on a big slope, and obviously we can't build things like too close to the water, but there's like a significant amount of space here, and we have so many ideas.
Even with the slope, there's a lot of kind of natural landings where, you could totally utilize that space for a variety of things, there's definitely space for a garden. We do obviously have a lot of deer, and we will have to have deer fencing or like a greenhouse, or we've looked at a lot of different options for that.
Would be cool.
A greenhouse would be great to do growing kind of throughout the year as well. That'd be a great option to have.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely a deck. We've looked at a couple different spots. We've thought, you know, hot tub, little outdoor spa area.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
There is. Yeah, we should do, because we actually have a little outdoor area now that we've just thrown together with some outdoor furniture, but maybe we'll do a tour where we walk you around the property and kind of talk about what we're thinking. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them, because we keep changing our mind and we have so many ideas. In terms of a deck, we did think about a deck off the house originally, but then once we got back here and saw it and saw how much space we actually had, there isn't a lot of space because we didn't want to clear so many trees. There isn't actually that much space around the tiny house itself.
There is a retaining wall in place for the space to be level and solid enough for the tiny house that we weren't entirely envisioning when we first thought of a deck, but there is still a way to do it. But we have some other spots where we think maybe a deck would be a better option in that area. So we're definitely kind of sussing things out, and I think taking a little bit more time with it to kind of just get to know the property a little bit more and then make those decisions a little bit down the line. Obviously, it'll give us a little bit of a break with the money as well. But
we need,
you know,
we need a break.
So I think that right now we're definitely kind of dreaming of all the things and just talking about all the ideas, and we're not quite ready to like do a big project like that yet.
No, we still need to finish like decorating and doing the interior and everything like that. And by the time we're done doing that, summer will be over. We'll be going into fall, winter. So like probably those projects won't be happening until next year, but definitely a deck, definitely an outdoor sitting area with a fire pit would be amazing. Definitely, some kind of other sitting, dining, like outdoor dining area on a deck would be amazing. And then an outdoor spa would be, those would be.
And the little spots down by the water. I mean, clearing some things. I've been out there like pulling up, I don't want to call them weeds. Like they're just wild,
like these big
trees,
bushes.
They have some pretty hefty roots, so it's like a really good workout to go and pull these roots up.
But they're everywhere.
And I can see how quickly they grow, because even just like from last year when we were here, they're everywhere, and they've definitely grown a lot since last year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, down by the water, we want to do something as well. We have one area that's kind of straight down from the office pod where you can get right down to the water, right down onto the rocks. And there is a bit of a landing where we could do a deck or just a seating area or something if we kind of leveled it out.
And I have cleared a path and dug out some stairs into the land. So
to get down
that's
there.
A start.
It is. And then on the other side, there is a beautiful spot where you can see the sunset, and another kind of like natural clearing where we could put, I don't know, something. So let us know if you're interested in hearing more about that, and we will do a video where we kind of walk you around, show you all the different outdoor areas, and we would love your ideas, your input to throw into the mix. Another question, will you be getting a secondary heat source or a generator or solar batteries for all the winter power outages? Yes, this is a great question and a big consideration if you know anything about the Gulf Islands. There are lots of power outages.
Yes.
Lots of storms.
Yes, this is something we've discussed. We've looked a lot into, power sources, backup batteries, UPS systems, which are essentially just like you plug them in and they're an automatic switch, so they've got a battery on them for, like, say, a computer, a desktop computer. You don't want a power outage or a surge to, mess up your computer before you've had a chance to, like, save things and properly shut it down. So that's potentially an option. We would love to do some kind of a backup with power, like big power banks and like solar panels, so that we can charge those up instead of doing like a gas generator or something like that. That's going to be like noisy and smelly and stuff. So
yeah, there's definitely a lot of options. We haven't quite figured it out yet. So again, if you have any suggestions, we are all ears. That's something we'll have to figure out soon, because we've already had a couple power outages that were like very brief, but we were like, oh, even in the summertime, like this is a thing.
Yeah, so obviously for a lot of people who are on the Gulf Islands, they have things like a wood burning stove to have a backup heat source. We did not do anything like that in the tiny house.
We thought about it. It just didn't make sense.
It didn't totally make sense. But the nice thing is our spaces are small enough, and if we had a proper battery, we would be able to run something like a space heater off of something like that for a little while. So
and it wouldn't take much.
It shouldn't be. Yeah, we kind of thought that's probably going to be our best bet for a backup heat source.
Yeah.
And the house and the pod are both really well insulated, and hopefully, I don't know. I've never really been in a position of like having a long power outage.
Because we also won't have water, right? So
that's a good
point.
The
other thing is just like we could leave. Like if there's a big storm, like and we don't want to be here for several days with no power, like we could just get on the ferry and go back to the city. So I don't know. We'll figure it out, but I'm not too worried about it. But we should probably figure out some sort of a backup system soon, heading into the fall.
Yeah.
And our last question that we will answer today, which I thought was really cute, was just, what is our favorite thing about living together?
Oh, you mean with Theo? Oh, you mean us?
All of us. I think that's a cute question and makes sense, because I wouldn't suggest living in a tiny house with anyone that you don't really like, because
it's a small space and it's a bit of a dance.
Yeah.
And if you don't both know the choreography, then it can be tricky. Like if you're constantly feeling like the other person's in your way and you're annoyed, then I can see it getting that really quick.
Yeah.
But no, we really like each other. Theo's small as well, so that's easy. Yeah. But yeah, I think we help each other out in certain ways, kind of just intuitively. So like if I'm doing something and need something, it's like in a way it's like you just know, and that goes for like kind of staying out of the way too. Like I really enjoy cooking,
but she's very much, because I'm always like, oh, wouldn't it be cute to like cook together? And she's like, no. She's very much like, get out of the kitchen when she's cooking, which I know that's fine.
But then it's like you take on something in another room, like folding the laundry or something like that. I think in general, like one of my favorite things is just that we are very good at the dance, if you will.
I think that's a good point. I mean, we've lived together for like 14 years or something at this point. And in all types of situations, right? We've traveled together. We've been in like tiny hotel rooms, and like
that's true.
So much smaller than this, honestly.
That's true.
Like this is fine. Yeah. So it's been great, and we're loving it. And I don't know, it's just getting to hang out together all the time. And
honestly, if anything, we are probably apart more than normal because we do have the office and the house, and so if I'm watching a WNBA game, for example, I can be in the house and you can be in the office. And
that is really nice, because
really nice.
We have less square footage than we do in our condo, but it feels like we have more space because of that separation of space. Because you're right, we can be doing two different activities and we can't really do that in our condo. It's like we're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
We're either both working or we're both like whatever. We don't really have anywhere else to go.
That's true.
Whereas in here, the ways that we both like to relax and unwind are very opposite of each other. Like Steph loves having like lots going on, lots of noise, and maybe a game on, or listening to a podcast and doing an activity or whatever. And I just like silence. I just like to come in here and have it be completely quiet and get some work done or do some yoga or whatever. And it's just like, that's my zen time.
I'll relax by going out with my shovel and digging up some super heavy rocks.
Which is amazing. And we're just different, and that's totally fine. But those things could clash if we didn't have the space that supported that. Obviously, that's why we did this the way we did. That's why we did this layout, and we're so happy with how it's working. And it's just nice to get to spend the time together here after like dreaming it for so long and decorating it and like making it ours together. I'm really enjoying that part of it.
So if you really like spending time with your partner, 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yes. So I think we will leave it there. And if you have any other questions, leave them in the comments, leave them anywhere on our channel, and hopefully we'll see it and we'll do another Q&A. And let us know what videos you want to see, because it's fun for us to share this whole journey, and we want to be making videos about what you want to watch. So you let us know.
So make sure you're subscribed, and we will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.